I kid you not, I have attempted to record this introduction about 6 times because I'm so nervous about just doing a solo episode. I recorded my other solo episodes like 6 months ago, so a lot's changed since then. But I did want to check in with everyone and just give you kind of an update of where I am. Welcome to Inadequate Mother, by the way. My name's Hayley Brown, and I'm here to just give you a slice of me. That's all I have to offer today. I don't have any experts. Not that I, do a lot of experts on my podcast, because it really is just about connecting with the realities of life and how we feel as people and why we feel inadequate. But if there's one way I want to connect with people, it's by being vulnerable. I am not an expert in much at all, but I am good at being transparent and giving you a slice of me. That's it. And it's okay that people's favourite conversation might be themselves. I think we're living in a world now that's more acceptable. You don't have to feel like you're tension-seeking or self-absorbed or self-centred. Actually, just talking about yourself and where you're at is just really bloody healthy. And if I can do that now and potentially help you guys talk to yourselves, or even to yourselves, I don't even mean talk to other people, I mean like have conversations in the mirror. I interviewed Vasafi Kumar, who wrote a book called Say It Out Loud, and it's brilliant. It just talks about how we can talk to ourselves to really help understand ourselves. And we grew up thinking that was the first sign of madness. But I'm actually realising it isn't. It's actually a sign of a really healthy brain that has realised that they need to verbalise their thoughts and their reflections in order to be able to process them. So let's get into it. The Inadequate Mother this week with me, Hayley Brown, your non-expert that's good at brain farting. This is going to be, I'm sorry for people that don't like the word fart, but this is literally a brain fart. That's what I'm going to do. This is day 25 out of 275 days to change my life around before I'm 40. And when I say change my life around, it's just give myself a kick up the bum to do the things that I've been wanting to do for a while. This is a big year for me. I'm 39 and I'm going to make shit happen. So this is my list, okay? Get on the property ladder. I'm determined to have an offer accepted or 2 of exchange on a house before November 9th. I am literally going to make it happen. I'm nervous as hell about it. If you've been in your rental delusional era for as long as I have, 40 years, I grew up in a rental. I have rented, and there's positives and negatives to that, but I've got to get on the property ladder. I have my deposit. I just need a little bit more. So next one is have a sponsorship for this podcast, because I love it. I am built for podcasting in so many ways. I have to do it in a way that's going to sustain and earn me some money. I am funding a lot of this myself, and I've spent a good few £1,000s on launching this podcast. So I need a sponsorship. If anyone out there that you can think of that wants to sponsor a podcast that is accessible to the deaf community and hosted by yours truly, please get in touch. What else is on my list? Okay, I'm going to figure out this ADHD thing, because I'm textbook someone with ADHD, and as we just see it all over the place, it's like massively getting embedded into our culture and our understanding of one another. People are getting diagnosed left, right and centre, and there's so many interesting reasons behind that. Do I want to be diagnosed? Is it important? And why am I thinking about these things, and how I've reflected on myself, and why I do consider myself to have the characteristics of ADHD. So I will cover this today. I'm going to give you an update of where I am relationship-wise in terms of living with my now 2-year relationship I've been dating someone for 2 years and we'd always planned to move in together. So I'm going to give you an update on that. I would like to write the shell of my book. I've got a few books up in my head, but I really need to start getting them out. And part of the reason I haven't is just the amount of distractions I have over here. So I really want to do a solo trip and go in and write and get some things down. And when I say write, I actually mean dictate verbally into some AI app, because your girl's a little bit dyslexic and, you know, writing's not necessarily going to be suitable for me. But speaking is, I keep getting asked to go on to other people's podcasts, and when I am asked questions and then I give these answers, I'm starting to understand what it is I want to say in terms of my book, and if I do any public speaking, it's all coming out of me, and I can just simply print off the transcripts of those podcasts, work out which bits are really interesting and refine my messages. And I suppose you call it a personal brand, don't you? But in terms of my stories, because there's so many and I'm a bit of an all over the place type of person, talking and then using AI to take the transcripts is a game changer for me. I need to sort out a new car. I would like to sort a website out. I would like to say goodbye to alcohol. And I feel like a lot of women are exploring this as the new information comes to the surface regarding menopause and perimenopause. So not like the immediate obvious signs and symptoms of menopause. We're talking more about the lead up to that and actually how long it is. I've shared a lot of my story on this podcast, probably not as much as I think, but I've shared the fact that I lost my mum to alcoholism. Now, she declined over a very short period. When it comes to alcoholism, normally it's, you know, it's a long habitual process. And yes, she always had like kind of a desire to have a glass of wine, maybe with friends, but it was never really excessive to any degree that I can remember anyway. It was very much a kind of 5-year process, I'd say. And I would, if I was to reflect back, it might just be because I was old enough to understand from the age of 18 when she was 40, that's when she started to get an unhealthy relationship with alcohol. It may have been before that and I just was too young to understand. I don't know. But the fact that I'm turning 40 around the same time my daughter's turned 18, and I'm noticing things in terms of me and my hormones and all this information about menopause and ADHD, it's making me reflect so much on what happened during those years with my mom. Not in a bad way, but in like a insightful way. We've got to understand our past to understand our future. There's a mental health epidemic going on. We feel disconnected to the generations we're trying to raise. We're fearful for those generations in terms of the future. And I think sometimes to understand the future, we do have to look back at the past. And that's what has been happening in my head a lot. And I'm thinking a lot about how I think and react to certain things. Now, in terms of the ADHD, I'm like, okay, neurodiverse. Well, it's always been kind of a superpower, I think. Whereas now I'm seeing it in a bit more of a broader perspective where I'm like, actually, I might be what people are saying as neurodiverse. I might be ADHD and have these problems that I've strategized to get over, such as, you know, needing to be moving all the time, hyperactive. Like that was always a superpower for me. Like I'm a single mom. Of course, I've got shit to do all the time. I don't ever sit down. But now I have children that are adults and that are looking at me with their adult eyes and understanding me as an adult. I'm like having to look a bit deeper into that and be like, okay, if your child needed you to be present and actively listening to her when she's, you know, when it's teenagers, they really pick and choose those times when they want to emotionally offload and connect with you. Active listening to me is hard at the best of times. So yeah, I think just understanding the little quirks that I have as someone that potentially has ADHD, I actually have listed them because when I went to the doctor, I did start the conversation with the doctor and was like, I'm sorry to jump on the bandwagon with this ADHD thing, because I just feel like a lot of people are looking at themselves through the lens of ADHD and then contemplating pharmaceutical medication, stimulants. The only reason I think I would consider a stimulant is because of how addicted I am to an energy drink every day. And it's been like that for years now. And I'm slowly realising, oh, okay, maybe this is to do with this ADHD thing, that you need some caffeine to be able to concentrate. Now, I don't know which is better, caffeine, an energy drink. Well, obviously, natural caffeine is better than an energy drink. And the only reason I don't drink coffee is because I can't stand the taste. However, I did buy some espresso shots the other day, and I have been taking them. But then I'll still go to my sweet energy drink on top, which defeats the object, doesn't it? I mean, I have tried to get off them plenty of times. So thinking about my gut bacteria, the lining that I'm pouring them into, it's not good. My IBS, things like that. Maybe a pharmaceutical stimulant would help me stop those. Another reason I'd consider it is because people have told me, apparently, please don't quote this as definite, but apparently you can just take it and not need it the next day. You can just take it willy-nilly when you need. There's no kind of consistency that's required, say like with an antidepressant and things like that. I did listen to Diary of a CEO's episode where it's talking about attachment styles with children, and I've just listened to it actually, and it's just literally scared the life out of me in terms of how much I may have messed up, or how much my so-called undiagnosed ADHD has had on my children. I strongly suggest you go and have a listen. It's quite scary in terms of what the research is suggesting, in terms of how the epidemic with children and their mental health is so strongly linked to us. But yeah, have a look at that episode. So what are my little quirks that I'm thinking in terms of my sensory or neurodivergent ways? So if I think about myself as an interpreter, I am stimulated through the stress, and I can focus when I'm stressed. So as a trainee, I was stressed because it was a new environment. I was learning, I wasn't as capable. And the stress and the anxiousness, which I'm sure so many interpreters can relate to because it's such a high pressure job, would keep me focused. However, now where I'm quite competent in the field and there's not many jobs that I get nervous about, and you know, most webinars, conferences, lectures, things like that, I'm going to have some insight into what's been said because I'm a lot older. I have the confidence to ask for clarity. I'm not that nervous. So I'm getting bored within my work, and it's making my distraction increase a lot more. So in terms of like having to focus in on, say, someone's finger spelling, my finger spelling's always been crap, and I've always thought it was down to my dyslexia. But I am now realising actually my finger spelling it's getting worse because my attention span isn't as good as it normally is, because I'm not as stressed or nervous as I normally am, or I was when I was a trainee. So, it's an interesting conversation with myself in regards to my job. Also, sitting down at home remotely is really painful. Like, I've always just thought that's just remote life. Like, being in front of a screen isn't for everyone, and you know, you need some fresh air, you need to go out. But I really struggle. And you know, when I realised how sitting still is really painful with me, since doing these podcasts, watching myself on camera sit next to another person and interview them, and just watching how much I fidget, twiddle my hair, adjust myself. My daughter watched me the once in a studio with Javina, and she went, "Mum, that was really good." I went, "Oh my God." she just gave me a compliment. I nearly burst into tears. But then she followed it with, but why were your feet flinging around in the camera all the while? I had my shoes off and my feet were just doing this all the way through the interview because I was so nervous, but also uncomfortable sitting still. So that's another thing I'm thinking, okay, is there something to think about there in terms of being an undiagnosed ADHD person? Do you really struggle to sit still? The dinner table, I've never been comfortable sitting throughout a whole meal. One of the reasons in regards to the dinner table is hearing people eat. As I'm in this reflecting year, I'm starting to acknowledge that this isn't normal. The amount of rage that comes over me if I hear certain people eating and the sounds that they make when they eat. So sensory overload when it comes to sounds, and that sense of being really high sensitive to sounds is well talked about now. I have ordered those loop earplug things because I have definitely been guilty as someone that has lashed out at someone for eating loudly. And it's interesting to me now, thinking about it, because there's certain people, if I don't have an emotional connection to them and I don't really know them that well, I will literally zone into their noises that they're making when they eat to the point where it soothes me. But if I have an emotional connection to that person and I love that person and I can hear them eat, it fills me with rage. Like, what is that about? What is that about? Like, and that's the reality. And that's been the reality of my whole life. Like, this a physical, uncomfortable feeling comes over me, but it only happens with certain people. And those people have to be the people that I love the most. It happens with them. It doesn't happen with people I don't love. Deaf people I'm around every day, and deaf people can't hear themselves eat. So obviously there's noises going on, and I love them. I zone into them and I can focus and enjoy those sounds. But with someone that I love, I get a feeling of rage. I've been known to walk out of a cinema, just have to walk away and just get this horrible, uncomfortable physical feeling. Someone said to me the other day, well, why wouldn't you take medication if you're struggling? Because this is an area where it's definitely left me struggling and affected my relationships. Because if I've lashed out at someone or got annoyed with someone because of the way they're eating, that was wrong, and it is what it is. But, you know, I've always tried to be honest about it in the last few years. Before then, I don't think I really acknowledged it to any great deal. And like I said, when your teenagers become little adults that start looking at you with them all-seeing, all-knowing eyes, because they know a lot. They know a lot these days. And we have to face that reality that we're kind of growing with our kids. They are teaching us about ourselves because we weren't privy to all this insight when we were growing up. And they are. So when they tell us about things that they've noticed in us, we have to listen. And if you can get anything from this episode, just understand that we're all out here trying to figure it out and think our way through accepting that I have this sensory sensitivity. It's also about accepting that in my child, because when she's been playing her ASMR, I'm just like, oh, turn it off, you don't need that, you don't need it. And that's probably me being a bit insensitive, because it is powerful to people that have these different ways of, I don't know if it's the nervous system or if it's something connected to the nervous system, I don't know, but definitely in terms of the conversations I'm seeing a lot out there on podcasts and you know, social media is about understanding our nervous system and understanding how our nervous system has definitely affected our children's nervous system. Getting to know ourselves, ultimately, that's what it is, isn't it? And once we can get to know ourselves, we can connect with other people a bit better. ADHD in relationships, it's supposed to affect relationships quite a lot, isn't it? And I would say that I'm 40, unmarried. I've had quite a few relationships in my years. You know, I've not been short of offers, but I've had one marriage offer. That was probably the most significant relationship I've had outside of the relationship with my children's father. But I would say most relationships, except the one I'm in now, have had high amounts of trauma and stress. And when there isn't trauma and stress, I am noticing that I get very distracted and disconnected in that relationship. I am thinking about ADHD as a way of understanding my attachment style and potentially how I respond to connection long term. You know, do I get bored? Do I need stress to feel connected to someone? All these questions I'm asking myself. Do I have the answers? No. But they are questions I think are important to ask ourselves. But it's still not something I think I would go and medicate myself for. I suppose the only reason I would consider medication is because it's not something that you need to take consistently and wean yourself off of or build yourself up. It's something that you can take, see how it works, and then take it one day and then not the next. It's up to you. That's what I've been told. Obviously, don't quote me on that. I am not an expert in this. This is just perspective I currently hold. I might be wrong. So in terms of my ADHD notes in front of me, constant projects, interests for very temporary amount of times. Vlogging has probably been the only thing that I've just consistently done. However, I've never been able to kind of grow it to anything big because I'm so all over the place with what I want to put out in terms of a content creator. I am about sign language, I'm about motherhood, I'm about myself. Trying to get an ADHD person to niche down and be focused on one area and deliver a certain specific content is really difficult. That's always been me, and that's just a characteristic. It's problematic when the algorithm can't keep up with you or understand you. I'm pretty sure my algorithm thinks I'm deaf. I don't think they can work out who I am. And I realised that way back when I started, and Facebook wanted to interviewed me, and they were like, oh, we've seen that you are, translating health and fitness information to the deaf community and you're training the deaf community. And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm just sharing me. And they were like, oh. And they couldn't box me in. So that opportunity kind of slid away because I very abruptly said, no, that's not. You're trying to box me into something that I'm not. I'm just, part of me is about sign language. So, yeah, being unnicheable. Yeah, I think in terms of my children and my family and people, active listening, I would say, has always been something that's difficult for me. And I think I listened to the negative voice in my head who said, Hayley, that's because you're self-centered. That's because you're attention seeking, or you're only interested in yourself because you're self-absorbed. Those were the negative things that were said to me as a child. But actually, I'm starting to look at it with a bit more of a kinder eye and go, oh, Hayley, you silly girl. And I think that's what it is all about, guys, because the reality is we wake up with a need for significance, acceptance and purpose. Now, if you were to go all spiritual on me or religious, you might say that the need for those things is a problem. And in fact, we were supposed to wake up already satisfied with all of those things. And we weren't built. If you believe we were created and, designed, then you could argue that we were not designed to need and want those things. They should already be satisfied within us. But nevertheless, we do wake up with those needs. And when you're thinking about someone that potentially might have ADHD, for me, it's because you want to understand yourself and understand how you talk to yourself. So, for example, when I said I would call myself self-centered, and the reason why I'm not good at active listening. Now, if someone has high success and their significance and their purpose and their acceptance in society is high, meaning they're smashing it at life, they're good at business, they're doing this, they're the cool kid, they're going to listen to how the world talks to them. So how they talk to themselves is going to be how the world talks to them. And that is, you're doing amazing, you're great, you're successful. So they're not going to need to understand themselves and their nervous system and their ADHD. They're just going to listen to what the world's telling them, and that's that they're great. It's really important. So I have been guilty of rolling my eyes when someone says, oh, you know, I'm ADHD and what have you, because I'm like, oh, here we go, another. It's almost like, I think historically we think people are just looking for an excuse for a certain behaviour. But it's not. It's about understanding how we talk to ourselves, about ourselves. Like, so now instead of saying things like, for God's sake, Hayley, just get a grip, do this the right way, I'm saying, silly Hayley, typical of Hayley. Well, we know why you do that, don't we? Yeah, you've always been like that. That's just you, Hayley. So it's almost being a good way of being kinder to ourselves and learning to talk to ourselves a little bit better. So that's me waffling on about my thoughts around kind of why I have been considering getting diagnosed with ADHD. I realise that there's a massive waiting list at the moment. Someone told me about the right to choose, which is basically a massive list of providers that can potentially offer assessments really fast. But I've rang a couple of them and they're still saying that their waiting lists are 3-4 years. So whether I want this enough to pay private, I don't know, because I'm pretty sure they're just going to say, yeah, you've got ADHD. I am interested in trying the medication, but I'm also a believer that you need to try everything else before you medicate, because it is just covering up the pain. And if you cover up the pain, then you don't understand the pain as much. So I do think I just need to start understanding the areas where I struggle and try everything else before I medicate. So as of now, I am going to start wearing my headphones in, maybe at dinner time or on my car journeys when I tend to get triggered by the noises. I am shots, so like neck the caffeine in, not in an energy drink, but just try and take the espresso shots, which I've been doing, and yeah, it's having a lot better effect on me, I think, than the energy drinks. Another update is I've decided to go on the coil to regulate my hormones a little bit more, because again, it might be the ADHD symptoms increasing, but I just don't remember taking my pill at all. It's just goes from my head. And I've always been pretty crap, but I've generally took it. But it just seems to just not be something I can figure out at the minute. So having the coil is just hopefully going to regulate my hormones, give me some estrogen, and potentially help my hormonal symptoms. The nurse told me that it was something that they would give in perimenopausal stage, and it's like a form of HRT, hormone replacement therapy. So I'm like, okay, yep, I'm on that. In terms of my relationship, I did say that I'd update you on that. I don't think we are going to live together because Matt, my boyfriend, he doesn't want to move to the area where I live. And it's understandable. Like, it's not a resentment towards why he doesn't want to move. I'm accepting of that. There's a little bit of kind of, oh, here we go again kind of feeling where I've I've invested in relationships endlessly and listened to this, oh, we'll figure it out. We'll live together, you know, further down the line. And then when it comes to it, it doesn't actually happen. So I've just come to the conclusion that I just need to figure this out on my own. But going to my boyfriend's house every weekend now isn't something that I want to do. I want to focus on work, getting a house, buying a house, viewing houses, getting a mortgage. I need to put less into a relationship and realise that I'm going to be living on my own now, probably indefinitely. Who knows what would happen, but for now, this is where I'm at. I can't divulge too much, but that's where I'm at. I am going to buy a house on my own, and me and Ava are going to live in that house with Kyla returning when she comes back from uni. This has been a big thing as well, is the fact that I'm going to be buying a house when Kyla moves away for financial reasons as well, that it's the best time to do that for us. But when she comes home, like she's expressed this feeling of being displaced and having this new house that she won't have a connection with, and I think she's quite worried about that. The 3rd bedrooms, I couldn't even put half of my clothes in a lot of them. And I'm like, how am I going to do this? Because we've just been blessed with a really big, nice rental and so much space. I'm literally in my wardrobe right now. It's so big and we've been spoiled. There's a lot to consider and I'm on it. I've just got to save a little bit more money and then we will be looking for houses. So if you follow me on Instagram, I will keep you updated on my stories as to the types of houses I'm looking at, potentially to renovate, potentially not. We'll see. I really do as well feel like a solo trip is on the horizon. I have taken a few over the years, and having this conversation with my boyfriend has proven difficult because he doesn't really understand that. He thinks if you're in a relationship and we see so little of each other, why wouldn't you want to go away with me? And the fact is because I'm processing so much at the minute and there's so much I want to do and get out, write my book. And it's up there, so much so that I can't focus on a relationship right now. I'm not giving him what he needs. So it's almost like I need to get it done and then I can be back in the room. That's where my head's a little bit at the minute. So I hope that this episode isn't so off-putting that you think, fuck me, God, you can talk. Guys, honestly, I am just out here trying to connect with people and being honest and frank about where I am in my life. Yeah, I think, like I said, I'm thinking a lot about my mum, a lot about how her turning 40 was a massive milestone in terms of how she declined with her mental well-being. And for me, that happened because she had this inability to be raw and transparent and honest and just share. And that is something I vowed I would never be. And I've kind of dedicated my everything to just letting it all out and not feeling any way and just trying to show up as authentically and connect with people through honesty and experience. Because your experience, your stories, they're yours. They're important. It's important to me. And for me, it's important that I share so that I can reflect and grow. That's how I do it. So it's not for everyone. It's not how everyone interacts with the world or processes things. But it is how I do it. So I'm so grateful if you sat here and like literally listened to me waffle for 40 minutes. And I really need to know why you did. Like literally tell me what you gained. If you didn't gain anything, please be honest. Be like, Hayley, that was a brain fart I didn't need to taste. Tell me, be honest. Or if you did hear something in that waffle that you thought, you know what, that's really helped me, please tell me, please let me know. Comment on this, subscribe to this podcast. I can only do what I know is working and what people want to listen to. If you want me to go out and find experts on this and experts on that, I will try my best to do so. If not, and you just want to hear me waffle about something that you might be interested in, or you might just want to be nosy and have a look into my life, let's stay connected. Let's build community, because if there's one thing we all need more of, it's connection and community, especially as mums. Have a good day. Thanks for listening, guys, and I will see you next week. Goodbye.